Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week, we are super lucky, I am super privileged, and I'm super honored to welcome a guest that I've been chasing down for a little while, and I've been super excited to welcome Amiad Soto from Guesty to the Accommodation Show. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Bart. Thank you for having me. I'm also excited to be on it.
It's I really see you as someone in the industry that's achieved incredible things. And I know, having founded a business 5 years ago, how incredibly difficult it can be to, one, found a business, grow the business, and then lead a business and change as the business grows. And that's something that I'm really interested in learning from you today, and learning your kind of story and how you've changed through time as a business, but also, quite interestingly, I'd love to delve a little bit into the changes that have been required of you as an individual to lead a company which is nothing like what you would imagine at the very, very beginning. But before we get going, what I'd love you to do is, if you don't mind, if you could introduce yourself, let everybody know that doesn't know who you are and what you do at Guesty on your day-to-day.
Cool. So first of all, my name is Amiad Soto. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Guesty. I'm currently 37 years old. I started the company when I was 26 with my identical twin brother. And we started it out of our own need. And that was basically being Tel Aviv students. And while we were traveling for our summer vacation, we wanted to sublet our apartment so we don't necessarily be losing that rent. So basically, our experience was, let's try this new website, Airbnb. Back then, it was 2012, I think, in 2013. And they were a couple hundreds of millions of dollars worth of valuation, so they were already becoming a name. But the experience of hosting was way too cumbersome. We felt like there is no way they're going to explode like they were, with so much work involved. There needs to be something more seamless. And out of our own necessity, we started looking for a solution. We couldn't find one, so we said, let's develop something of our own. And that was our own property management service for short-term rentals on Airbnb. We didn't know there are other types of vacation rentals or other websites, but we just started on Airbnb service. And we applied with that idea to Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator in Silicon Valley. And the person who interviewed us was Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator. And for everyone who don't know, Airbnb was part of the Y Combinator program 6 years before us.
Okay.
So he knew the Airbnb founders very well, and he heard from Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb themselves, that they have this problem they called host fatigue. So when we interviewed it, it's like, you just clicked, and it just made sense completely for them. And we showed them a demo of our product. They were extremely excited about it. Both me and my twin are very technically advanced, I would call it. So we're very much like a hackers, building a tool that answers guest communication and everything very quickly. So we got accepted into the program. And to make long story short, very quickly we realized that we don't like the logistical work of being a property manager ourselves. We are computer geeks. So we decided to pivot from on the ground being property managers to be a software provider for property managers instead. That led us to opening up the technology that we built for our own property management service to everyone else who wanted it. And from there, it just took off because so many people were trying Airbnb and needed that. The problem we suffered from ourselves was the real problem.
So it was across the board. And just to kind of go to the current stage of the business, that was quite a number of years ago. Where are you guys now? How big have you grown?
Yeah, I forgot to allude to that one. So thanks for the follow-up question. Guesty is now about 850 people strong. We have employees in more than 16 countries now. We're the biggest property management software in short-term rentals in the industry. both by number of employees, by properties that are managed on our software. Over the years, we acquired 7 businesses. Latest one was just early this year in 2024, Rentals United, which is the most advanced channel manager in the industry. We also raised a lot of money from VCs, but we are not owned by any private equity firm. We are most likely we're independent, and most likely will go in to become a public company at one point or in the future. So our focus is to continue to grow the company further and further.
Right. Okay. So I hear that there's going to be a little bit of chat about IPO, and I'll save that for later on. Thanks for filling me in about that story. I knew parts of it. I did know about your twin brother being part of it. I did know about Y Combinator. What I didn't know was the tech side of it. Was that you were also the techie side of it, and I assume that your brother, both of you, were developers and quite capable of developing software and code. And that
I hate to admit it, but my twin is even a lot more technical than I am, and he was the CTO and CPO, and he kind of like spinned this entire product to what it was when we started and grew it over the years. After about 4 or 5 years into the life of the company, he decided to start looking for his own self. So he did a Vipassana and pivoted from being on the business to being on our board instead. So he's no longer involved in the company. He's now actually started a new startup in the software as a service ecosystem.
Wow. Tell me about the Vipassana. So for those that don't know, Vipassana is generally about a week, kind of silent retreat, where you go and I know many people that have done it, and it's quite, even my dad has done it as well, gone away for a week and kind of, I guess you spend time with your thoughts.
I didn't do it myself. I do mostly, we're both kind of like, biohackers where we try to push our body to the limit. So he did it to his mental self with this Vipassana. I did it mostly on the physical self and doing long fasting periods. The longest I've done was 168 hours, which is a full week of fasting.
Wow.
And we are both kind of like trying to push our body to the limits and learn from it. So educatively. So we don't do it just without any prior education, but we like going and research a lot and then experiment.
Yeah, fascinating. So, and when did his transition happen? Was it earlier on or was it more recent?
No, he did it 4 years into the life of the business. So that was already 7 years ago. So, but the company was already pretty big. He phased out when we were about 100 people.
Yeah. Okay. And then you guys have kept on growing. Wow. Okay. So maybe we start a little bit at the beginning, because I do want to understand that journey a little bit, because that story, I've heard it quite a few times. So like you said, Airbnb have done it before, and there's quite a few companies that have grown and started at a stage going to Y Combinator, and there's so many different programs you can do now to help accelerate your business, get the knowledge and the network so that you can grow. One of the things that interests me is you said that you'd identify the need. Okay, so that's obviously one crucial part to it. But also you said that you had a product already, and quite often people will come with an idea, but it sounds like you folks were already beyond MVP stage.
Yeah. Don't forget, we built the product for our own sake. So it didn't have to be perfect. It just needed to work. And spinning something that's proof of concept that works was weeks, not months even. It was weeks, and then we had something that worked and handled guest communication, and then we kept taking more and more properties under our belt, and that led to more problems that we experienced, and that led to more solutions. So I think that over the years we've expanded our solution magnificently because of feedback that we got on issues. And I think that's one of the biggest problem with I know that your show focuses a lot on finding product market fit and finding things like that. So I think that a lot of this is being our own customers in the beginning really helps with making sure that we have real focus on the need, right? The real real focus on understanding the problem really well because we were experiencing it for our own self. So we didn't have any question that this is a problem, this is a need because we experienced it firsthand.
But
Many
also,
times people create software companies or other companies for other people's needs, and they aren't really sure and confident that that's a real problem.
and I mean, even at that stage, though, I guess you would have been thinking about the company growing and that sort of thing. But there's no way you could have predicted that the industry would have took off to where it is today.
Well, I never actually thought about it, right? So I did not predict it, and I think that under like my young self, I did not think that far into the future, to be honest. I think that understanding and becoming a visionary into like the long term of the industry just came with growth. So in the beginning, we were just like fixing problem after another, and scale really threw a lot of problems in our faces. So it's like we didn't have even a single minute to just stop and focus. Like, what's the next 3 years look like? We just kept running, and all of a sudden we were 100 people, and only then we were able to start thinking about like, okay, what does it mean for different types of inventory? What does it mean for different types of customer needs? And how do we build a company that reach $1 billion of revenue and can go public? So.
Yeah. And so on that note, actually, on the public stage, what stage did that start to come into your mind saying, hey, we're onto something, we want to grow it to a certain stage? Is that sort of like one of those visions that you put up on a board at the very start and you're like, we're going to get to here? Or was it something a little bit more organic with time? You're like, well, we're growing. We like the idea of pace. We like the idea of fast growth.
Yeah.
Because from what's really interesting about IPOing, about, I guess, making money and that sort of thing is that, there's a moment when you've got enough money, right? You don't need the financial incentive.
I think that
you're being driven by something else.
Yeah, I think that with the saying that with the food comes the appetite, right? So I think that we more were led by organic growth. In the beginning, we felt like, hey, we want to get this to $1 million revenue, and then the next stage was a $10 million revenue, and then the next stage was 100. And I think that the realism was that we in the beginning, and I'm humbly saying I did not expect the Guesty to be billions of dollars, but over the years, understanding that the problem in our our product leadership and I take a look at a lot of the technology landscape of our industry all the time, and I think that Guesty has opened such a superiority in the product phase and the robustness of the product and the user friendliness of the products that it's almost mandating that we'll continue to focus on how do we get to more properties and how do we help more people. And I think that that's our future, is to just grow the market share of Guesty while also thinking about expanding into adjacent markets later.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I always find it fascinating, especially if we look at Airbnb, the number of hosts that are individual hosts versus professional managers is just such a huge difference, right? I think it's roughly 80% or something like that, or maybe 70% that are individual hosts. So there's just a huge market still to be addressed with people that have problems or that might want to list on different platforms and that sort of thing. So it feels like unlimited growth.
Yeah, I can tell you that even though Guesty is the biggest in the industry, we're still single digits of market share. So we have a lot of room for growth for our own sake, and that just with the short rental and vacation rental industry. So we have a lot of room for growth even with adjacent markets. To just give you an example, our customers keep adding different types of inventory to our platform. Hotel-like inventory, like multiple buildings that are converted into apart hotels, and we had student housing and whatnot. There is so many different types of inventory that we keep experiencing, and that actually drives our product further because it enables us to constantly add more functionality to address the need of those customers, because we want to make sure that all of our customers are happy with it. So,
I'm going to continue down this angle because I find it fascinating, because as a business grows, there's a massive temptation to start to address new markets, right? and to grow, to expand
It's always a
sideways,
quick
right?
question. It's always a big question on the balance between growing your leadership in your existing market versus capturing opportunities on adjacent ones, right?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Actually, it's a question of focus too. I think
Yeah.
that focus leads to mastery, and it's
Hmm.
important. And only if you have significant amount of resources, you can start um, thinking about the future and start thinking about planning towards those adjacent markets. But eventually, I'll give you the like where we are aiming for in the future. We do believe that property managers who manage long-term rentals should do it alongside managing short-term rentals and mid-term rentals, and also hospitality businesses like hotels and the like. They are all should operate within a
Hmm.
single platform that deals with everything that they are going through, and therefore we believe that every type of space should be managed on Guesty eventually.
Yeah. And what I really like about what you said there is you need to make sure that you're well resourced to attack a new segment. And there's also a part of the understanding of it as well, because as you said, you understood Airbnb very well. You understood short-term rentals and the needs and the demands for it. But as soon as you jump into a new vertical with loads of respect, you're not going to be the expert on it. You haven't done it. You haven't been a hotel manager, for example. Or as you said, so then you have to, I guess, also find the right people to surround yourself with, the right team. What philosophically, do you have any tips or any advice as to like what does that resourcing look like, and how do you really understand how to solve those problems that you did with the first product, and now you're trying to solve similar problems but in a different vertical, so to speak?
So the best is always to hear from your customers, right? So we normally have our product managers interview customers and also prospects. And when we don't believe we can make the best, decision for that customer, then we work with that potential prospect as a design partner.
Mm-hmm.
We enlist them almost as a consultant, where we work with their team on what are the things that are missing from our product to make sure that we are the best tool for them. So we had multiple design partners in the past. For example, when we grew into the vacation rental market in the US, which is a lot more regulated with trust accounting and other capabilities, we work with design partners to make sure that we build the right solution for them. And it was progress until we were the best tool in that industry too. So I think that overall, we keep focusing on product and keep focusing on our customers. I'm a product person myself. I love product and UX. My brother was a technology and product person himself too. So we came from that angle. We are not marketeers. We're not salespeople, even though we do have had to do sales over the years many times, and we sharpened our skill in that front too. But our key area of expertise and where we really love to do it, building great product.
And I'm glad that you went back to this one, because I wanted to delve into this a little bit. The tech founder. So there's different founders that I've uh, interviewed in the past, that I've encountered, and there's generally different skill sets. And you've got the tech side, which is incredibly useful, especially if you're building a SaaS product. But also there's, the finance guys and girls generally are very good at running companies because they've got SOPs, they understand how to run numbers and that sort of thing. But it's incredibly valuable as a founder for you to understand how it all fits together and how it all works, right? So even as you guys are scaling, you've got to start finding suppliers for your cloud solutions. For example, when you're having a conversation with a supplier, then you'll know pretty much what's going on and how it all works. How critical is that, and what advantages are there of being a tech founder? And I guess it's a kind of triple barrel question. For those that aren't tech founders, do you have any advice?
Well, I think that the beauty of being in 2024 these days is that the barrier of building great technological products have lowered dramatically, to the point that some products are built with no code. So being a technological founder is important because you can question everything, and you can set even more demanding deadlines or things like that, because you understand what is needed. Just the same as if you can basically diligence your own work, right? And you can know what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. However, these days, the barrier to entry is just lower dramatically. And I think that everyone can make great products these days. It really is a question of what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about a specific problem or a need, the chances of you building a great product around it are much higher. It's almost like being obsessive about how awesome the product should be, right? So some people just want to create the company versus some people just want to create a real great product. And I think that the higher chances of success comes with building like a great product.
Yeah. And that's, do you ever find that you have to check yourself on that and make sure that you're always going back to that basic principle of, are we always focusing on the product? Because it's quite easy to get carried away with everything else, right? Be it from marketing, we're going to do this and that. But it's that focus and that product is really what's going to survive in the long run.
100%. And I think that over the years, you asked me earlier, how did I develop as a CEO? I think that I developed to be, capable to work with many and delegate a lot of those things. But I still remains highly focused on our product and R&D and UX teams. My most fun meetings of my week are revolved around UX reviews and product reviews. And I'm involved, you won't believe it, but I'm involved as much as reading code sometimes and understanding, what's the next step of each feature, much more than people understand. Much more than I'm involved in our marketing strategy and our sales strategy. I am involved there too, and I can explain them perfectly to you, but they are not my passion in the sense as much as like the product of the company.
Yeah, you can see that love. And so my background is more sales and marketing rather than the product side. And I've been involved with some businesses where the founders have just been so obsessed with the product and there's just huge expense going into the product. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's all good building the product, but we need to sell it, right? So I'm kind of coming from that other angle. But I gained a massive appreciation for being so focused on the product and getting it right, because then that's something that creates that huge value in the long run. So kind of sell itself.
That's actually a great point. I think that over the years and still to this day, Guesty spend on R&D and product is dramatically bigger than the benchmark. The benchmark for companies at any size is around like 25% of the revenue goes to R&D and product. At Guesty, it's around 40. So it's dramatically higher than the benchmark and dramatically higher than the amount we invest in sales and marketing. As you said it yourself, the focus should be the product, not the marketing and the sales of it. And that's true to this day. We, as an example, have 250 people in our R&D and product and design team. That's bigger than many of our competitors' entire company. Our focus is on delivering great product, and the amount of new functionality we launch every year is staggering. Like this year alone, we are now in October. I don't know when you will release this video, but we have to this date launched more than 150 new features. I'm not talking about bug fixes or anything, but new features this year, more than 150 into production. So this is just to exemplify what does it mean to have 250 people working on constantly on improving the product.
And look, I'm going to say one thing, that we are going to start running out of time. So I'm going to fire off loads of questions because I'm just super interested for some of this information. And there's a few other areas that I do want to cover before we have to go. How do you figure out what to prioritize when you are building all these products, this feature list? And now one of the things that you said to me was, we're listening to the customer, but that's all good and well, right? We can listen to the customer, and sometimes not even that feedback isn't right for where you should be driving the company. There's so many different opportunities that you have as a business, especially with that level, that depth of developers. You can go into all sorts of directions. How do you figure out what to prioritize next, especially as the market changes, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's the mastery of a product manager role, is actually how to prioritize. Product managers is basically someone who is an expert in the problem domain, while the designer and R&D are experts in the solution domain. And knowing and being an expert in the problem allows them to get better priorities. For example, at our scale, you have, for example, how do we fix bugs versus building more functionality for a new enterprise customer versus building more functionality to existing customers versus upgrading things that, the engineering team has already provided the team with newer versions of things that's already in production and things like that, and infrastructure and well, let's not get into scalability and security and all that kind of stuff. But you have so many things on your plate, and the importance of priorities are a key focus of the team. There's no silver bullet to how do you do that. I think that it's just, if you are a founder slash a manager who lives on the execution floor or like of the factory, you have much better instincts on what you should do next. When you get like an email that is out of the blue, you don't necessarily understand, okay, where did this come from? However, if you meet customers regularly, if you talk to, engineers regularly all the time, you have much better instincts on this, making decisions on priorities like that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things. I mean, you're on this podcast with a view of listening, learning, and kind of closing that ecosystem and seeing what's going on. We saw each other via RMA recently, and you're on the floor talking to people and listening to them, and you get that knowledge that can really help you as well as a founder. So it's kind of keeping in touch as well with what's going on in the place. As I'm going to keep it moving forward, I really want to ask you about your personal growth in terms of, you started as a kid, I guess. I mean, it's not a kid, but you know what I mean, like young. And you will be managing people that are older than you as well.
Much older.
Have more experience and that sort of thing. And there's different skill sets as well. I mean, you're talking about project management, leading teams of substantial size. How do you keep yourself on a personal level? Do you have like mentors? Do you have people that you work with to help you through those different phases? Yeah. Have you had them in the past? And what could you recommend for people to make sure that they're getting the right skill set to be able to grow with their business and to meet the business's demands?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, first of all, every year my role has changed, almost every year. From being executioner myself to recruitment to fundraising, mostly to innovator and visionary, to scaler of the company, and setting standards as well. I think that the ability to do that requires a lot of humility and a lot of great desire to learn. I have multiple mentors constantly. I've had both leadership coaching, both I keep on my own time listening to podcasts like yours about technology, about mentorship and things like that, and that constantly helps. Reading books, and also I'm surrounded by great people who are experts on their field. And the entire executive team at Guesty are people that are much more experienced than I have, and that are have already taken companies public or potentially sold companies and scaled companies. I can start naming them, but that won't stop because we have such a big team now. But our board is super seasoned, and I keep meeting people who are just much more experienced in listening to their feedback. I think obviously I'm an expert in our own domain of short rental and what we do as a product, but they are expert in their own field, and therefore every one of them have something to teach and for me to learn. And I take great pride of our team. I think that's one of the things I've learned over the years, just to hire excellent people and being more of a guide rather than a manager. I basically almost like a North Star for where we want to be at, and they come up with their own paths, and I constantly just monitor and track that path, and if needed, navigate them towards where we need to be, or remind people what's the goal. But eventually, if you hire excellent people, you constantly amazed by what they achieve rather than need to be involved in executing yourself.
And so, I mean, that involves a massive level of trust, right? So, and as you grow, you get to know your team and you get to know your people, and they're kind of taking care of you and taking care of that vision, right? That North Star. And one of the things I do know is that you take your team out on a regular basis. I don't know how often it is, but I hear all the time, or I'm off to meet with all the managers and all the people within the company. And I imagine that that's the moment when you're catching up with everyone, getting them on the same vision, the same mission, and that sort of thing. Has that been
It
there?
also requires a lot of sharing the values we believe in, right? So, for example, one of the values that we believe in is we are all owners, and therefore we give equity to everyone in the company, and we also expect everyone to have full accountability and ownership of their own domain. We also have transparency is a value, and that means that every month I have all hands with everyone, where I share the entire company stats, what's going well, what's not going well, what do we need to do next month, and I open it up for questions and I address everyone. And that's true to people from support, from sales, from marketing, every long path of the product. And I also seek with every new employee on a monthly basis and introduce myself and make sure that I'm approachable, so people don't feel afraid of reaching out and surface ideas. I think that fresh ideas are constantly something that keeps pushing the company for excellence. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know that, but in Google, for example, employee number 100 was the one who gave the idea of Gmail, which led to a
yeah,
huge success. And I think employee number 1000 was the person who came up with the idea of Google Maps. So just
yeah.
like
Wow. Yeah.
great.
So listening to the team and that sort of thing. Um, uh, Incredible. So look, conscious of the fact that this is probably a 2-hour episode that we should be doing, but I want to move on to one last sort of area. Because
I give you an idea of a seminar, maybe a seminar with leaders in the industry.
oh, how good would that be? How good would that be to have everybody talking? Because I think everyone's fascinated, right? And I think that there's no, it's where we work together at the end of the day to solve problems. And that's one of the things I really like about the industry. We just came off the back of a conference, and yes, we have competitors, but that's okay. We work together to strengthen the industry and work collaboratively, especially when we come to events like that. People are sharing sort of some of their deepest thoughts. But
I did mention that Guesty acquired 7 companies, and that's one of the things that yes, we have competitors, but sometimes competitors become partners and later on colleagues. And that's one of the things that we really believe in, is consolidation of the industry and pulling resources together for benefiting of the customers eventually, is how, instead of working against each other, we can work together to solve a difficult problem.
Yeah. And there are more than enough problems. And what's fascinating about it is that every time I go to an event, I hear about new problems that I had no idea were coming up. And then it starts to get louder and louder. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yes, we do need to professionalize a lot more, or our version of what professionalizing meant 12 months ago is not the same. For the future, I want to just cover this last area, the future. And there's the future of Guesty, which we'll come to for sure. I do want to get your input on the hot button topic that everyone's heard too much about, which is AI and artificial intelligence, because it's something I'm personally interested in. We'd love to get your thoughts on, is it as much of a game-changing moment for humanity and the industry, and where do you see that kind of technology fitting into our futures?
Yeah. So first of all, I believe it is a monumental change, not just for the industry, but to mankind. And I think that we're still in infancy of AI. I think that every year technology gets like at least 10x better. And if you think about like, okay, in 10 years, it will be like a monumental step change from where we are now. And if we don't adapt, we will be left behind. And we at Guesty already implemented AI at least in 4 different product areas and internally. We launched Reply AI, which is our guest communication bot that helps understand guest messaging, understand if a message is positive, negative, it helps ring a bell if needed, but also helps phrase the response much quicker. That's just one product. We also launched Guesty Price Optimizer, which is our own dynamic pricing tool based on, million parameters and enabling property managers to price their properties better on a nightly basis and doing much better job in understanding key insights, and many, many more. We have at least 3 different products that we have already launched that are helping with reviews, we're helping with building their own website and listing descriptions and whatnot. But to emphasize, I think that eventually AI needs to be practical implementation and not just buzz. And that means that all of the products that Guesty is focused on with AI has to really help a specific problem and really enable the property manager to do what they want to do best, which is connect with their guests, connect with their owners, and grow their business. If we can help with that, what's the point, right? So that's the focus of Guesty is how do we take AI from research to practical application.
Applications. And that's, I think, where quite often it does fail, right? So you get an answer to a question.
It's almost like a toy right now in the hands of engineers and designers, and people just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And that's fun, right? That's where you see some things that are just fun and they are not really practical in any way. But they are experiments that lead the path to practical products like the Price Optimizer and Reply AI. It doesn't necessarily start this way, and it's a manifestation of many, many different experiments, but eventually that's how it grows.
Let me just ask you quickly, before I do ask you about sort of the future of Guesty as a whole. Data is going to be one of the key things with AI in the future, or already is. And it's kind of, I think the big tech companies have always understood whoever's got the data wins, because they can do a lot more with it. And Guesty has got an awful lot of data that you can work with. Do you see that as an advantage? And how do you see that kind of playing out?
Of course, data has always been a key focus for us. We sit in the center of everything that's going on, because we are both connected to all of the supply, the inventory, and all of the demand, that both the channels and the direct reservation suite. So we have the most data of anyone, and we see it as an advantage. However, we also see ourselves as a protector of data for our customers. So we don't necessarily allow third parties and others to, abuse data of our customers in any way. Security and privacy are key components we always need to monitor.
Yeah. Scary, brave new world. IPO. Tell me a bit more. So you've had different stages of growth. Now within the industry, there's always different rumors, and I think you've started to mention it as being a North Star for Guesty. Have you got a bit of a path set out? Do you know what it's looking like yet? Do you know how long? Is there anything that anyone might be able to learn from your journey?
Yeah. So first of all, it's important to understand IPO is not a target. It's just another milestone. It's a funding event, but it's also a funding event that opens you up to public scrutiny, and that's a higher bar that you need to meet. Higher bar of transparency and a higher bar of execution. So for us, this is not a goal, but instead just another milestone in our path to become the biggest property management software of the industry and any type of property eventually. One other thing that people don't understand about going public is that you don't necessarily decide when you should go public. It's really when the market is receptive of companies that are in your industry, that are of your size, that have the same financial profile, and many, many more. And as such, I think that there is no specific timeline so we can, open up. But the company is constantly evolving and constantly working on stepping up to the bar that I mentioned, and how can we become more ready to be and not just to be at the standard, but to beat the standard of all of the things that's
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I'm glad that I asked. So because, like you said, there is a lot more scrutiny. People are watching what you're doing, from everything you're doing, and even reporting back to the market and letting them know what's going on. And the way that you interact with the business is going to have to change as well, because you can't do things that you could do before. Because I mean, I just wanted to do it. Now it's like, oh, actually, I can't do it. I've got some limitations and restrictions because now I respond to everybody.
Yeah. Another example, I gave the transparency example, but if we go public, well, I'll have to limit transparency, or else the team won't be able to utilize any of their shares because of insider information, right? So there is always a
Correct.
balance
Yeah.
that needs to be, needs to be taken into account. And I think that that's part of the negative side of being a public company, while there is other many positive sides of being a public company, including liquidity for employees, hard work, and things like that. So there's constant reminder of the um, responsibility that we have, also to shareholders and to our customers. I think that one of the best things of becoming public will be to allow our customers to also be owners in the company.
Yeah, I love it. Look, I think on that note, I think that's a really nice way to sum it up. You know, having everyone involved in your journey as a company, and look, I think a lot of people know about Guesty and that sort of thing, and it's been really fascinating to be able to hear a bit more of the background, hear a bit more about your thoughts about the industry, about where we're going. And as I said, I'm sure we'll do a seminar. We could talk in much more depth about specific different challenges or topics. What I'm hoping is that those people that have watched this, they get a bit of inspiration in terms of what they're doing, in terms of their journey, in terms of their lives, and what they might want to do, and what is actually possible. You're an incredibly young founder, and you're achieving really great things, and you've got some structure and some thoughts behind it. So congratulations for that, and thank you so much for sharing with me and with the Accommodation Show audience. And I'm sure your staff are going to see it as well. So I really do appreciate your time, and that you come on and do this with us. Are there any final thoughts that you want to leave us with before I wrap this up?
First of all, thank you again for having me, Bart. I'm an avid listener of your podcast, and therefore I appreciate being a participant in it. I think that a key takeaway should be that, one, building and innovating is not something that is reserved to specific people. It's everyone who can do that. And second thing is that surrounding yourself with excellent people makes the journey a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. So keep focusing on people. Eventually, even though we focused a lot on this conversation on AI and automation and technology, I think eventually we are in a people-oriented industry. We are in the accommodation, hospitality, and bringing people together. And if you do that same thing for your own business, and make sure that you surround yourself with excellent people, your journey will definitely bring great fruits. So,
I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, I appreciate those final words. They resonate with me massively. There's no way that I could have got to where I am today without going and meeting people that I've surrounded myself with, that I can call up, and if I've got any questions, concerns, problems, there's nothing that can't be solved with the right network. So I really appreciate that. Look, folks, if you are tuned in to the episode on Spotify, if you're listening on iTunes, leave us a review. Would really appreciate it. Otherwise, hit the like button or the subscribe button as well. If you're not subscribed, it makes a big difference, and it lets us continue to do these shows that we're doing. Amiad, I wish you a terrific rest of the day, and I'm sure that I'll see you again very, very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.